Alright, so I've been having a few issues with origin line plots, two-dimensional line plots, and I thought I'll make a short video to convey my points better to the origin team. First of all, so there are three issues that I'll be discussing here. The first issue is turning this into a dotted line. I have introduced a secondary y-axis on the right-hand side, and it's solid. And I thought that there's a way to turn this into a dotted line over here, and I can't see anything. Um, and I do know that this is possible because let me just open another Origin project. You can see that I do have a right-hand side secondary y-axis which is dotted. I don't remember how I did it because it was months ago, and I don't see that option over here either to turn this back into a solid line. So I don't know how it works. Grids, solid. No, these are grid lines, right? Special ticks, lines, line and ticks. So I don't know how it works. Right hand side. So this is the plot that has the dotted line. I can't turn it back into a solid line. Let me just close this. So I know that this is possible. Like I would like to have the freedom to turn this into a solid line or turn this back into a dotted line, and I don't see that. So yeah, that's the first issue. The second issue is that these numbers are appearing in decimals, which is fine. That's how they should appear. So I do have a formula over here, right? That's the formula. And this formula is working perfectly fine as far as I can see. But I'm not sure if this should be y. But I think this formula is working perfectly fine. Except that I would like, instead of having decimal values, I would like to have whole number values, keeping the interval of 5 constant. So instead of 45.5 and 39.7 and 34.8, I would like to have 44, 39, 34, 30, 25, 20. So all the ticks are going to shift a little bit upward, you see, and they're going to shift a few decimal point upwards. So they're not going to coincide absolutely with the ticks on the primary y-axis. They're not going to overlap perfectly fine, perfectly well, but they should be like minus 44, minus 39, minus 34, minus 30, minus 25 instead of these values. And that's what I would prefer. Okay. And I could possibly go into tick labels, and I could possibly go into um, I don't know how to do that. Like this is going to remove the ticks, but the tick labels, how do I remove these and instead have only special ticks? You have to help me out with this. Okay, I know I can introduce special ticks over here. Like, let me just do one right now. If I go for minus 44 and I go to apply, see, it's showing me something is not right. Something is not right. So it apparently is still calculating it on the same axis as this one. So you got to help me out with that. I know this is possible, but I don't know how to do it. Tick labels, display, divide by factor, formula. Um, I don't know. Uh, So essentially, these are just two different scales, as you can see. Just think of it as centimeters and let's say inches. And I would like to have only the whole numbers displayed here. And apparently at this point, it's only showing, let me just try to replace this with y and see what happens. Yeah, no, that did not work out. So let me go back to x. So I'm not exactly sure how to change this in a manner that it only displays the whole number points over here, not like the decimal points. Of course, they're not going to overlap uh, with these points, but that's exactly what I want. Okay, now to the next topic. The next topic is drop lines. I have these drop lines, a few of them are mapping onto the left y and bottom x, and a few of them are mapping onto the right y. Now, if I open the drop line option, I had to specify the points, select auto, and then introduce an other function plot as a layer, change the line to 0 so that the line itself is not visible, and have the drop lines map onto the right y-axis. So if I were to select auto, it's gonna map to the left y-axis by default. If I select x-axis end, it's gonna map onto the secondary y-axis. Yeah, and yeah, unfortunately, the only way I could figure out to have drop lines distributed, some onto the left y and others onto the right y, was to have multiple layers. I couldn't find another way to do it. I couldn't find a way to have drop lines mapped onto different axes within the same layer. So that's the second problem. The third problem is labels. So you can see I've enabled the labels and I've selected show at specific points only, and I have selected drop line. And no matter what I select, the labels just don't appear. I don't know what's going on over here. X labels don't appear at all. Numeric display format attached to X line. Nothing works. The graph stays as it is. So I have no idea what I'm doing here. So let me just disable it right now. And let me just add the points manually. That's the, I don't know what to do. So there are these three problems that I'm facing. One is the secondary y-axis, which, as I showed, was the secondary y-axis. I'm unable to change the styles, which, as I showed in the other origin project, it is possible, but I can't figure out right now. The second problem is having drop lines mapped onto different axes without having to insert multiple layers. The third one is introducing the labels. So there are these three problems that I'm facing right now, which I hope you can help me out with.